Everyone, welcome back to the Jay's Fifth Down podcast. I am your host, Jay, and I'm here today with Rusty Byrd here. Glad to have him back on to talk some things football. We'll get into that, talk about the NFL and gambling. They are now doing some more investigations as far as, seeing what any more suspensions that might have to be made. So we'll talk about that and get Rusty's thoughts on the presence of gambling in the NFL and how big of an issue that's become. We'll also talk about the top edge rushers going into 2023 and players that they have to, this got to be the season for them. Can they come back from injuries? The players that come back from injuries, how big of a season it must be for them to come back. So we'll talk about that. Rusty, thank you for coming on the show today.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I'm happy to be here, man. Can you hear me? I thought this might go a little better in a different setup, but yeah, thanks for having me. Interesting topics. I think this is something a lot of people should maybe get some clarity on, and then maybe I can share just my thoughts and get your thoughts too. But yeah, if I don't know where do you want to start, but with the gambling issue. First of all, the NFL for years and professional sports made us feel like, from the professional leagues, made gambling seem like it was this really bad thing, and we shouldn't be doing it. And if you did it, you went to a bookie, and the only places you could do it was in Las Vegas, was in Nevada. And but with the opening up of all of the, with it being legalized, the Supreme Court saying, hey, wait, this should be able to be done anywhere. Because I know New Jersey was really fighting for it. They have casinos and they wanted sports betting. So then, the Supreme Court said every state should be able to do it. Well, should be able. I don't think it's been legalized in every state yet. But once they opened it up, now you see advertising, celebrities, all type of Jamie Foxx, all type of people, former athletes, promoting it. And so, it's out there. and although I know it's, written in a lot of the NFL legislation, and I know they have seminars and talk to their athletes about being able to do it, I personally think that the penalties they're receiving are much too harsh. It looks like most of them are getting the 1 year fully. It's indefinite, but most of them look like they'll be for 1 year.
Yeah. Most recently, of course, I both know Calvin Ridley, the former Falcon, now the current Jaguar, suspended for a year for gambling. So he missed all of last season after he was traded to Jacksonville. So he'll be back on field next year. But and also most recently, Jameson Williams of the Detroit Lions suspended for a couple of games as well.
Mm-hmm.
So a couple other players. So yeah, this is something that the NFL is really trying to crack down on. They made an effort to do it. They're continuing investigations now into possible suspensions. So it's become a prevalent thing.
Yeah, so the problem I have with it is, like, for Calvin Ridley being the first person, if what he did was he actually, I guess it's no excuse because I'm pretty sure they made it clear they shouldn't do it. But I think he bet, like, he didn't bet on himself, he didn't bet on his team, and he bet like on a parlay that was going to be extremely difficult to even, all these different things had to happen, points, wins, and all this. But I thought for a full year for something that he clearly wasn't smart enough to hide it, right? Because he used his name. So he probably didn't realize the impact, and for it to be the first one, I thought 1 year was harsh. And I know they were trying to send a message, but let this happen to an owner. And what do they do? Or let it be a coach, but I really think the way they come down on players, and specifically, African-American players, not making that as an excuse, but just I see the disparity between players and owners and some of the punishments that are handed out. And so that was the biggest problem I had with it.
Yeah, I can agree. A full year. I mean, yeah, that's a little too much. That's a little too much. But again, it's become a big problem in the league that they're wanting to specifically address. So they're continuing their investigation. I expect there probably going to be some more suspensions coming soon. So, from what I've heard, so coming out the league. So,
Yeah, they did suspend a couple of the new players. I think it was for a year, so that they got some of the Detroit Lion athletes got the full year, but then others, like you said, it was just like 6 games.
Yeah, so we'll see how that happens. I just wanted to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, well, my off the record thoughts, we're gonna put them on the record, are don't be dumb enough to put them in your name. Like, have your friends do it. You give them the money, put it in Jaden Gay's name, and Jaden, if I win $100, I'll give you $10. But if we're doing it for me, but like, if you're dumb enough to put it in your name, I guess you should be punished. But I think a year is too much.
Yeah. So that's too much. But yeah, moving on here, Rusty. As we're closing in here into 2023 offseason, got OTAs coming up now, and I wanted to get your thoughts on who are the top edge rushers going in here into the 2023 season.
So for me, I'm a big Micah Parsons fan. I really think he is extremely disruptive in the way he comes off the ball and with his pressure. But I think the top edge rusher is Myles Garrett. And I say Myles Garrett not just because of his ability to make sacks, but also disrupt, running plays, getting his hand with his height, making disruptive the quarterback in terms of, the pressure he puts on and having to throw over or around him. And then I think Nick Bosa, is outstanding. So I would say those are my top 3, but there are, a number of other really, really great, pass rushers. I think one of the, so let me just say this. When it comes to those edge rushers, I totally get their value. But I think a problem I have with some of it is the exact value they put on the impact of these rushers. And let me just put it this way. We're saying, oh, Nick Bosa, you had an outstanding season. You caused havoc. Yes, you got 18 and a half sacks. Myles Garrett, you got 16 sacks. But and again, I'm a big Lawrence Taylor fan, and some of the things he did, Michael Strahan, but I'm still going, what does 18 sacks calculate to? 1 sack per game? I mean, really, like, yes, that's immeasurable, and some people, clearly not everybody can get a sack, and, you only had, within the top 20 players, people getting double figures.
I'm sorry, Rusty. Can you excuse me?
Oh, just about the fact that we put a lot of value in these sacks, and when you look at it, it's not like people are getting 50 sacks. A player that has over 100, tackles, that's impactful. But then again, where are those tackles made? Are they behind the line of scrimmage? Are people just running into you, as a middle linebacker? So I think, sacks is a key statistic. Those players do have an impact, but if you're playing a full game and the person is averaging 1 sack per game, I mean, do we overvalue the sack? I don't know.
I think, yeah. 1 sack. I see what you're saying. It makes sense. And pass rush is extremely is important because you have to, if you want to win this league, because we are in a passing league now. So you have to get after the quarterback. You got to get them down. Like they have to be able to pass the ball. You have to be able to stop them from doing so. You have to get pressure pressure is important. Teams that get pressure win. You look at the Eagles. They were great getting pressure. They got to the Super Bowl. They didn't win, but they got there and they didn't get any pressure all game. And that's one of the reasons why they didn't win, among other things. But that's the glaring reason why. So yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So again, I think Chris Jones, who for KC, he came up big, and that helped Kansas City win the Super Bowl. And we've seen some of the great players do it in big games. But again, I just wonder, I'd like to measure not just the sacks, but again, the run game and the pressure. But with quarterbacks now, taking just in the shotgun, taking 2 steps or 2 seconds and releasing the ball, I just wonder, are we giving these guys a whole lot of credit? And again, maybe I'm bitter because I'm a Chicago Bears fan, and we had a great defense, and we went out, made trades, paid a lot of money to Khalil Mack, and it meant nothing. Like, he was one dude, and he had, to me, he came in there his first year after the trade. He was okay, but when we were in the playoffs and we were losing, he didn't make a sack. Like, if for all the money he was being paid, he wasn't as impactful as the quarterback that drove. I forget the team. That might have been the Eagles, who drove down on us and scored. He did. I'm like, if you make all this money, you need to sack the quarterback now. And so I just thought, like, Khalil Mack, he had his best years at another place, and he didn't, to me, come through when needed.
Yeah. I think that was the infamous double doink game.
Yeah, it was. Yep, that's right.
For the Bears.
That's right. So for me, like, if you make that sack, maybe we stop them earlier. We have better position and all that. Yep, but that was the game.
Yeah, double doink, as Chris Collinsworth noted on the NBC broadcast. I think it's important, and I think guys, like I say, I'm looking forward to seeing T.J. Watt come back. He's, to me, one of the best pass rushers in the league this year.
Yeah.
He got hurt, so he missed a lot of action this year. So I'm looking forward to seeing him come back and make an impact for the Steelers, because they're going to need him. Of course, Myles Garrett, Nick Bosa, Michael Parsons, who they seem like they're moving him full time to edge rusher, I think. He can do it, but yeah, that's going to be interesting there to see how the Cowboys work him full time pass rusher. Because I think that's a good move.
Yeah. Yep. I agree.
Yeah. So that's any guys that you think are underrated that might not be getting much attention to? Okay, so I won't say underrated. Can I just say who may be overrated?
Okay. So the Washington Redskins Chase Young. He should be back this year, they're saying.
Yes.
And I know he's in a contract year, and so he can have his contract extended from his rookie deal. And he had a great rookie season, but now he's been in the league. I believe this was going into his 4th year, and he was injured in his 2nd, and that carried over into last year. And so I go, well, no, I don't. I just don't overpay for him. He's great, but he's had the injuries, and what production is he going to give you? But then is he, again, I'm going like, what would be a good season for Chase Young? And I wouldn't sign him now. I'd let him, and if you lose him because he has a great year, okay, that's tough. But he's one I think that may be a little overrated, and other people may if the Commanders look at it, maybe they can trade him because somebody else thinks he is going to bring that value. But I don't know. I can't say who I think is underrated, but I think he may be overrated.
That's a good pick. Yeah, that's it.
What about you?
Well, overrated. I would like to say I agree with you on Chase Young there. Coming out of college, he was supposed to be one of the best pass rushers. Of course, he's missed time, and he in the limited action he has had. He's been good, but yeah. So I think now I do have somebody that's underrated. That's a guy for the Steelers. His name is Alex Highsmith.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Hey, this kid is a very good pass rusher. He's very talented. I don't think he gets enough recognition because of T.J. Watt being there, but he's very talented.
Yes.
So I'm looking forward to him continuing to have a big career, big season this year for Pittsburgh because they're going to need that defense to elevate their level of play. So yeah, definitely him. We have some love on the podcast today, Alex Highsmith. Watch out for him.
That is a good one. Yes, I agree.
Very talented.
Okay, so let me just say this. So I finally pulled it up, but for Chase Young, let me just say, I think he might have received Rookie of the Year honors or Defensive Rookie of the Year, in 2020. But I think it was because his plays were impactful at the right time. And they were big because he made a stop at a big time, or he recovered a fumble at a big time, and I think he returned one for, I don't know, maybe not a touchdown, but he made some impactful plays. But overall, he had 7.5 sacks. He had 44 tackles. And maybe, again, I'm not watching every play. He might have done an outstanding. Maybe he was being double teamed, and the pros, they know all these things. But again, I just wonder, like, is he actually worth re-signing at a really high rate? That's all.
That's a good question. We'll see about that. But this year will be very important in determining that. So for Chase Young. But moving on. So Rusty, who would you say is a guy for you, or maybe another players that had an injury-prone 2022? They're coming back this year. That you're looking for them to have a bounce-back year.
Chase Young. That was one of the things I was going to. Okay. Right. So it worked, which is, our sacks discussion and everything. Yeah, I look for him. I'm hoping. I'm a Chase Young fan. He's from the D.C. metro area. He went to DeMatha. In fact, one of his proteges is a young man by the name of Jason Moore, who's going from DeMatha. He's a 4-star. He's going to Ohio State, and they're hoping he will be the next Chase Young. I work with his mom. I know him very well. So I'm a fan of Chase Young, and I hope he does, great, especially with new ownership, coming on board. But he's one that I think can have impact. But, how is Ron Rivera going to use him? Ron Rivera could be on the hot seat, not knowing who with new ownership and everything. And again, so I did look it up again. Chase Young, signed a full rookie contract, was 4 years, $34 million. On average about $8 million. $8.5 million a year. And, I think that's a lot of money, but I don't know. Who would you say in terms of coming back from injury? I know TJ Watt. No, TJ should be coming back from an injury. Yep, he should be back in it again. If he is healthy, he's another one I'm really looking forward to. But what are some of your thoughts?
So for me, I think the big one here for a lot of people is Trey Lance.
Yeah.
I want him to come back. Because I believe that he has the potential to be a starting quarterback in this league, whether that's for the 49ers or someone else. But that's a guy I'm looking forward to seeing come back this year. He's making good progress from what I've been hearing. And that the 49ers have really no plans to trade him right now.
Yeah. As of right. I think that's an excellent one to be on the lookout for. But I have to say, and I'm pulling for the brother, but I think hopefully he can do, but I just think San Francisco made a bad selection. I think moving up, he hadn't played a lot in college. He played at a lower level. And I think they, wanted him to come in there and wow them and show him some stuff. And then he really didn't come in and beat anybody out. I understand he needed to develop and all, but, if I'm pulling for him, but I just don't, I wouldn't bet my money on him having a great year. But we'll see. I'm hoping he does. Yeah. I'll just say that. But he's kind of, I hate to say I've kind of moved on.
Yeah, I understand. I definitely understand. I mean, the 49ers are in a situation where they need to have their quarterback situation figured out and have it solidified by before the season starts. So we'll see.
I do have one other player though, but I don't know if you could consider him injured because he was playing. But I wonder what's going to happen with, and I don't consider it like a major injury thing, but just old and beat up, and that would be Dallas Cowboys Ezekiel Elliott. So
Ezekiel Elliott.
Okay. So let me just say this.
Oh God.
I'm not a Ezekiel Elliott fan at all. But I saw the decline 2 or 3 years ago. But some people would say, oh, he was never really healthy. But even if he was 100% healthy, do you, and he will probably go to another team, do you think he's going to ever have an impact again in the NFL?
Yardage situations, goal line, he might need 1 or 2 yards to get a touchdown. If he's your guy or a first down, he might be your guy. But other than that, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't either. And that's a good point. I don't think he's going to be worth a lot of money. I think the new approach, and this is what I've thought for years, is why pay any one running back a lot of money, and especially a long contract, because you can just get fresh legs out of college. I've always said, it's so many guys playing D2, Division I AA or small, not non-big Group 5 schools. They're fast, they're shifty, and just give them the ball. As long as they're fast and young and healthy, they can probably get it done. You don't need to make a large investment in running backs, in my opinion now.
I mean, there's a lot of guys that come out every year that, they don't get just because they're not, the top selections, or they don't have all these, their name is out there like that. I mean, perfect example for me, Deuce Vaughn out of Kansas State. That's a talented running back.
Yes.
I like him. Yeah, I'm a fan of his. I think he's very talented. I'm interested to see what he does. And I forgot which team he went to. But
he went to Dallas.
Oh, he went to the Cowboys. Okay.
Yeah, because his dad called. His dad called. His dad is a scout for Dallas. Yeah, and he could be the one replacing Ezekiel Elliott. But I think it's guys like that because they may not have certain measurables, whether they're size or speed, they're just not considering those guys necessarily realizing, they're ballers, man. They can get it done. And so I think that's a good example. If you look at a lot of the starting NFL running backs now, a lot of them weren't household name brands, from just because they were in the SEC and they played for Alabama. It's a lot of guys that you didn't really hear about them, but so Austin Eckler. It's guys like that all over the league, man, that are and then I'm looking at all these Alabama running backs that go in the first round, and I'm like, how do you really know if they're any good? They were running behind the Alabama offensive line.
Yeah, well, I guess you can make an exception for Josh Jacobs. I mean, he's
Yeah, I mean,
he's good.
Yeah, so I'm not saying there aren't great running backs that come from these programs. I'm just saying, it's sometimes hard to evaluate them, and are they worth being picked so high in the draft? Now, from what I'm hearing, the running back from Texas, Dijon, like he's supposed to be Bijan. He's supposed to be legit. Let's see.
We'll see about that.
He's in your town, right?
Yeah, on my hometown Falcons. He is in Atlanta, so we'll see how that works. Arthur Smith was licking his chops after that selection.
Right.
So yeah, man, and just to round up the podcast today, Rusty, our wild card question, man, it's a very big one. What is your favorite MCU movie? Marvel Cinematic Universe. What is your favorite Marvel movie?
Okay. You should have had my sons on, because it's funny. It's funny you say that, because I was with them for a while, like just watching everyone and trying to follow. My sons, they know them all, and we stay to the end, and then like, okay, we watch after the credits, like, okay, that's a key to what the next one's going to be. And it's funny because last night I took my sons to see Fast and Furious, the part 2. It was typical Fast. It was good for, if you like that type of movie, it was perfectly fine. Now, my son, like I saw 1 through probably 6 and missed the last 3 or 4. But it was a Fast and Furious movie. Like the acting, the action, you got what you wanted. Like, and I won't give any spoiler alerts or anything. I mean, I won't even say spoiler. I won't tell you anything about it, but I don't want to spoil anything. But when you come to the Marvel movies, I haven't been as big a fan as I thought it would be when they combine. It's like everybody, together fighting. From the movies, I've learned to enjoy, is it Thor? He's a part of the Marvel, right? Thor. He's not DC, right? Thor, I really like. I like Thor, and I think Thor, to me, I didn't have an appreciation of him when I was a kid or from the comics, but I like the way he's played on the screen. The actor, I like how the one thing I like about Marvel, and DC has tried to start to do it, is everything's not so like DC. Everything's so dark and no, like I like how the Marvel and Spider-Man especially was doing this for years, but they kind of laugh at themselves. And so Thor, he's fighting, but he's not taking himself so serious. There's that comedy, and so I've noticed like they're trying to do that now with Superman or Batman, and it's not working, or Aquaman or whatever. So, but I Thor, any of the Thor movies, I really don't like. I'm not as big of a fan, so I don't know a specific Thor, the name of one, but I like the Thor movies, and then when he's a part of somebody else's. So yeah, I don't know if that answers your question or not.
No, I mean, that Thor is your guy. I get it.
Yeah.
I'd say for me, I am a huge Marvel fan. I've seen all of them. Man, it's so hard. I think I would have to go with Spider-Man: No Way Home. Came out a couple years ago. That was the most recent one. I like that one. It's pretty good.
So I do have one other one. And the only reason I didn't say this one is because I don't think it will ever be the same going forward. The singular one movie was Black Panther.
Yeah, of course.
Black Panther. That movie was amazing. It was, to me, the best singular movie. Going forward, if they don't have that Chad Boseman character, like him doing it, I know that transition because of his death to his sister, and I don't know how they're going to do things going forward. But that, to me, singularly, was the greatest Marvel movie. The character himself, his powers and all that were okay, but it was a community of
and what it brought to the culture, and just how it brought people together,
yes,
and just the impact it had in society,
absolutely.
And when you have films like that's it's amazing, so very inspirational. But yeah, That about wraps us up, man. Rusty. For the show, thanks for coming on. Any last thoughts as we're getting closer and closer and closer and closer to the NFL coming back?
Yeah, no, I love the NFL. No, I don't love the NFL. I love football. Okay, I'll say this: I'm looking forward to it. But in the meantime, and I just have this. Now your show is, Jay's Fifth Down. You cover football. Did you follow any of the XFL?
No.
Okay.
I mean, I watched some of it. Some players I kept an eye on, but as far as coverage, not really.
Okay, because I'm from. My last thing I'll say is I'm from the DC area. I work in DC. The Commanders, not the Commanders, but the DC Defenders. Big fan, but I don't know if you saw their championship game. They lost to Arlington. And that was disappointing. I had several friends that flew down to San Antonio for that. But I just, my last thing I would say is I know your show focuses on NFL and college, but I really hope that people can support the XFL and the USFL, because people don't if you're just because you don't make the NFL doesn't mean you can't play. It's just not enough teams, not enough spots. So support some of these teams. A lot of them were great college players and played at these Power 5 teams, conferences and stuff. So that's what I would close with. Is USFL is rolling now. Go out and support it if you can or watch it.
Yeah, but very valid point. So definitely interesting there. It's more football. It's more football. You can't complain about more football. Football year round. I love football. But thanks, Rusty, for coming on today, man. And we will have you back on very soon. Just keep an eye out for everything going on. So thank you.
Okay. Thanks for having me, man. I enjoyed it. Always.
Take care.
All right. Bye-bye.